Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of Bitcoin, taking a look at what's been going on most recently, what we think is likely to happen next and all that wonderful stuff. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And yeah, let's jump right down into this video. It's going to be an interesting one. We've got a few different things to kind of talk about today outside of just the price action. So let's go ahead and tidy out some of this. So we're going to remove that. We can obviously see we saw a move to the downside yesterday. This comes on the back of some of the things that were going on. Specifically with CPI data, the SEC, and the spot ETFs, and ultimately just a little bit of fear in the market. Again, we were talking about the potential for an irregular flat, and well, I think that's essentially kind of what we see within here. It's an irregular flat. Something that I didn't think was going to happen, but I did point out yesterday as a possibility. Looks like it is something that's occurred here. Again, we could look at it like that. Again, I'm not liking this because we should have a 5-wave drop. And well, there might be a little one in there. I think it might even be better just to kind of maybe think of this here as just corrective. But nonetheless, it is what it is and we can move on from it. But today, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the wallet counts and where buying and selling is going on. Kind of what I call the must-see data, that kind of stuff. But for this, we've got a little bit of a twist because our new website for members has gone live as of today. I'll put a link for this in the description down below. And the data is now available for you guys to also look at your leisure. So let's go ahead and jump on over into the Bitcoin on-chain data. So we're going to do that from the exclusive data tab. That's going to load up the report for us. And here we can see that we have all this information on BTC. I'm not going to talk about all of this in here, but again, if you're looking, maybe you're wanting to kind of, become a member, the link in the description down below, and you'll be able to kind of take a look at the overview, the exchange liquidations, and of course our wallet data. Okay, so in here, there's a lot to kind of talk about. I know the screen is a little bit small, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to make this a little bit bigger. So to start with, we can see we've got all of the different size wallet counts. We go down in a little bit more granular detail than we had done previously. So we are now talking about 0.001, 0.01, 0.1, 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and 1 million BTC in a wallet. So anything above each of those numbers essentially is how many wallets are going to be counted within that range. Okay, down here is a graph of what we've been looking at. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the low side of the scale. Okay, and we're going to go and maximize this out a little bit. Okay, so we can kind of see what's going on. We have a little bar at the bottom. We can drag this down so that we can actually start to zoom in on the most recent activity. Okay, so we can kind of zoom in and out of the report and the data of the chart. Okay, so what we're going to do is we can see here, if we just hover on this mark here, we've got a pretty reasonable 23,317 wallets that have over 0.001 BTC in them. If we click on the next size, which is the 0.01, anything larger than that, we can see it's at 12.114 million units. So pretty significant number of wallets that have these lower amounts of BTC in them. Now, as we start to scale up a little bit, we can start to see that wallets that have over 0.1 Bitcoin in them at 4.3, still on the up. You can see the black line here over the last 8 years. These have been on the increase, right? They've been accumulating quite aggressively. Now, when we get to the 1 Bitcoiners, you can see that there's over 1 million wallets, and you can see how some of the larger size wallets, they fluctuate a little bit more, right? We can see that they most recently during this bear market, they've been accumulating, believing that the bottom is always in, buying up every single dip. And this is courtesy of lots of different factors, but it is what it is. Many times that retail investors believe the bottom is in, and then obviously it goes down a little bit deeper, so they buy that, believing that that is the new bottom and so forth, and they continue this cycle until of course something happens that causes them to sell off. Now if we go ahead and move over into the 10 Bitcoin or more per wallet, you can see how things are fluctuating a little bit more. High net worth individuals, and again, they've invested reasonably well over this bear market so far, but they are starting to kind of waver a little bit. You can see there's a lot more kind of movements in the wallet counts. Currently, at the point of recording this video, we're sat at 156,000 wallets. Now, if we move over to the 100 Bitcoin or more, again, you can see things that actually are slightly different. The larger the size wallet, the less they're actually buying, right? So it's showing you that smaller retail size wallets are buying, whereas the larger wallets not so much, right? And so we can see here that these have actually just been on the decrease, the 100 sized Bitcoin wallets, right? Now they were significantly higher, up at around 18,000. Currently right now they're hovering on the 15,888 wallets, and you can kind of see here they've been moving down most recently as the price has been moving to the upside. Moving over to the 1,000 BTC wallets, so this is basically any wallet that has over 1,000 Bitcoin. These are typically what we would call a whale in the space. You can see they've been aggressively selling during this entire bear market. They've been basically just selling to the retail investors. Now again, if we zoom in on the most recent here, you can kind of see how they've been kind of just following the price action. Nothing terribly too much has been kind of happening here, but you can kind of see how they've been fluctuating a little bit. Now you can see that we've got 2,029 wallets, which was down 0.44% from 7 days ago, but up 0.05% from 30 days ago, and up 0.35% from 90 days ago. However, when you start looking further afield, you can see in the last 180 days, the wallet counts are down 0.54%, and in the last 1 year or 365 days, the wallets are down 7.98%. So in the last 1 year, we have dropped nearly 8% of whale wallets. Okay, we can see that within the data there. Okay, so I'm going to go and expand this just up a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 10,000 BTC or more per wallet, right? And again, right now we're hovering on 110 wallets, which is down 0.9% in the last 7 days, down 3.51% in the last 30 days, down 5.98% in the last 17 days, down 3.51% in the last 180 days, but up 13.4% in the last 95 days. Okay, this tells us that they are accumulating during the bear market, but in this most recent move to the upside, these guys have been selling to the retail investors who have been purchasing. Okay, so it's an interesting piece of information that allows us to understand that, okay, well, why would large wallets be selling into a pump to the upside? Well, that's called exit liquidity that's being provided for these guys. Okay, they've been buying up during the bear market, and well, prices have moved up quite a bit, and they're able to sell that to the unsuspecting retail investor. Now, as we kind of move over into the 100,000 BTC or more per wallet, we can see there's only 4 wallets that have over 100,000 Bitcoin in them, MicroStrategy being one of them, right? And we can see this isn't going to tell us terribly too much, other than the fact that these have been fluctuating, right? And we can argue that these big players are really pushing the market in different directions. Okay, so most recently we can see that when we were up here and we had this pull to the downside, that actually we were hovering on the 5 wallets that had over 100,000, dropped down to 3 wallets, and then it starts pushing back up again. And coincidentally, at the same time as this goes up, price also moves up. Very interesting stuff. This is stuff that we didn't have prior because we didn't have access to that kind of granular level detail where we're going and getting even more information on the Bitcoin wallets. So again, we've got lots of different ways of kind of cutting this. So for example, if I expand this out and we just come down to the 10,000 Bitcoin or more, right, we can see what it's looking like over the years. We obviously have a filter here, so I could change this to the last 2 years, for example, and that's going to dynamically change what we see within here to just the last 2 years. But it also allows us to focus in on specific quarters. So if I wanted to take a look at this one here, for example, I could specifically focus in on exactly what's going on for each of these quarters. Like 2022, quarter 1, for example, this is kind of what was going on. We can take a look over here as well, and we can kind of review all this. It will of course adjust this scope over here, but we'd have to make sure that we have enough data to kind of do that. So if I go ahead and put in 3 years, for example, and then we kind of expand this out, because we can't just look at it in isolation. But if I were to grab this lower scale and start rolling this back to Q1 2022, you can see how it's going to calculate out everything for you as well, based on that last date that is within its scope of range here. So lots of ways to kind of review this data, look at the history of wallet counts, and hopefully that can actually then drive out decisions as to kind of where things are going further forward. So if you haven't already checked out the membership site, why not go ahead and check it out? Link is in the description down below. Let's jump over into the charts, right? Because obviously knowing that the wallets and wallet counts, and understanding that big wallets are essentially selling their Bitcoin to the retail investors, and really large 100,000 BTC wallets are essentially moving the market in specific directions, helps us understand what's going on with our movements here on BTC, because these big movements to the downside is literally just about grabbing as much liquidity as possible, and the people who are left holding their bags at the end of the day are the ones that are going to suffer. Now ultimately, does any of this change kind of my bigger outlook on things? Not necessarily. I think that we still have that possibility of going up to the CME gap at the $34,000-$35,000 range, right? I think that's really where we're going to see reversal, and where we're going to start to really come on down. Like I said, we have our upper trend line here, the higher highs, and we obviously have the lower one, the lower highs, and this is ultimately looking at moving us up a little bit further, specifically with the break from here towards that $34,000-$35,000 level. That's going to get us into the high range, where I suspect that we're probably going to find upper resistance, and then start to work our way to the downside from there. As I said previously, trying to get above that kind of range is going to be quite tricky, because there is a lot of upper resistance in this area here. Moving up to 48k is going to be really, really tough with all the consolidation that we had previously in this range. As you can kind of see, there's upper resistance really coming in quite aggressively at the $42,000. So if we are to try to push above 40k, I think that's really going to be your major issue. But for the most part, let's focus on actually closing that CME gap at 35k, get that one done, and see how things are at that point there. We are overbought on the monthly time frame. And I think we've got some pretty good momentum shifting around as well. So we're coming down on the daily. I think the weekly has some momentum upwards though. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how much further this thing can push before everything lines up for a big momentum shift to the downside. Now, what fundamentally might drive price to the downside could be anything from more interest rate hikes that people thought were behind them, all the way through to a housing crisis, which is just around the corner, in my opinion. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Really interested to kind of get the opinions of the community. If you found this useful, smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and don't forget to join us down in Discord. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.
We are not financial advisors, and none of what we have communicated verbally or in writing here should be considered as financial advice. It is not. Do your own research before investing in any digital asset or affiliate offers, and understand that investing in any crypto is risky. If you do, you need to be prepared to lose your entire investment. This video is for information and entertainment purposes only. All our videos are strictly personal opinions. Please make sure you do your own research and never take our opinions for financial guidance. There are multiple strategies, and not all strategies fit all people. Our videos are not financial advice.